The Detroit Red Wings finally sign all of their free agents. We've got women's hockey news, and yes, this weekend we've got live preseason hockey. We've got all that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Gil Martin from Locked On Islanders. I'm here every Friday with Rachel Donner of Locked On Flyers. Happy Friday, Rachel.
Happy Friday indeed.
Some big news around the league as training camps have opened up and the Detroit Red Wings finally have their house in order. Your initial thoughts on the signing of Moritz Seider to a 7-year deal worth just a little less than $60 million total?
Yeah, it is interesting that he got a 7-year deal as opposed to the max 8-year deal here, but he was the last one to sign, so maybe that was the compromise there, but still, I think the cap hit is spot on where it should have been, $8.55 million. He's been such an invaluable part of this team, and I think that it just makes sense. Like, if you want to continue what they've been building, you got to sign these guys to what they're worth.
Yeah, no question about that. And look, they didn't have too much more wiggle room left. According to Puckpedia, Detroit has $198,194 of cap space left after signing Seider and then, just getting Lucas Raymond under contract 8 years, right. 8.075. So Red Wings fans can exhale. Everybody has been signed, sealed, and delivered. And the team is where it needs to be to get training camp started.
Absolutely. And I think that mostly Red Wings fans are relieved right now that all that drama is behind them.
Absolutely. And as well they should be, given all the drama that was going on during the off season. Now, the Anaheim Ducks made a little bit of news. They have announced that defenseman Radko Gudas will be the 9th captain in franchise history. First person to wear the C for the Ducks since Ryan Getzlaf retired after 2021-2022.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a break for the Ducks without a captain. Radko Gudas, I think, is a really interesting but good choice for them. I have experience watching him when he was on the Flyers, but he's been around the league a lot, but he's definitely a guy that's a team leader and obviously gets everybody going. He's got a little bit of an edge to him, as we know. And I think, the Ducks just really haven't had a personality, to be fair, in quite some time. And so to bring him on board and then name him captain, I think really gives this team just something to make them distinctive, right?
Yeah, got to have an identity, and Radko Gudas is certainly the kind of guy who could set that identity up by the way he plays and the way he will lead this team. So some good news there, I think, for Ducks fans. Some retirement news also to discuss right now. And Jaromir Jagr doing his best Gordie Howe imitation, playing into his 50s. But apparently Jagr basically saying that after this year, he is going to stop playing professional hockey. He's 52 years old, hasn't played in North America since 2018, but he's been playing in Czechia, and he's the team owner and president of his hometown's team, and he's going to give it one last go-round this year.
Yeah, apparently he got an assist in his first game back this season with the team. So, it's end of an era, man. We've always like clung to him continuing to play as like some sort of sign of longevity, and we're not actually old. But now, like once he retires, like, yeah, I guess we're old.
And the good news, though, as long as he's still active in Europe, the time doesn't start ticking on when he becomes eligible for the Hall of Fame. So 3 years after he does actually retire, and who knows, with Jagr, he may try to come back and change his mind next year. But the 3-year waiting period will start to tick. And obviously, Jaromir Jagr is going to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Oh, for sure. Like, absolutely no doubt.
First ballot, no debate, just go straight through. The other retirement announcement, Kyle Okposo stepping down after 17 seasons, and he's going out on top after winning the Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers last year. And I'll tell you, as somebody who watched Okposo closely when he started his career with the New York Islanders, I don't want to say how long ago, but, congratulations to him. 17 years in the National Hockey League, more than 1,000 career games, and, ending his career with that Stanley Cup win. Captain of the Buffalo Sabres, a guy who really did have a very solid NHL career.
Yeah, I am just so happy that he got a Stanley Cup at the end of his career, because he's just one of those guys that you always wanted to root for. That he worked so hard and the skill was there, and sometimes he couldn't put it together quite as well as you would have liked, but the effort was always there, and he became such a strong leader. I just could not be more thrilled for him.
Oh, likewise. I mean, I remember him coming in as a 19-year-old kid and watching him mature and develop and grow into a really solid hockey player and become a leader, and then winning the Stanley Cup. It's been a great journey. And as a fan and a member of the media, it's been great to watch that journey and report on that journey for Kyle Okposo. Some LTIR news also as training camps open up across the National Hockey League. Let's start in Vegas, where Robin Lehner is not exactly following the typical script of an LTIR player.
Right. So we know that he didn't play last season, and we already knew he wasn't going to play this season. But normally, under these circumstances, you have to report to the team and get a physical to certify that, yes, you are indeed injured. They can put you on LTIR and go from there. He has not reported. And apparently there's something going on behind the scenes there. And McCrimmon, who's the Vegas GM, basically said there's some circumstances around here that we're working on behind the scenes with the NHL and the NHLPA. But he did not officially report as normally directed. So they're not saying anything now, but to be continued on what's going on there.
Yeah, we shall see. And then the Washington Capitals also announcing that they will be placing TJ Oshie on LTIR. You got to wonder if he's really ever going to be able to get back into hockey playing shape. A bad back, as we all know, very tricky. He's 36 years old. Is this the end for TJ Oshie as far as his hockey career goes?
I mean, it could be. Obviously, they're trying everything they can to figure out a way to make it work. But I think that I would not put money on it. That's for sure.
Well, we certainly hope he can make as full and complete a recovery as possible. And again, not going to start the season on the active list. And we'll see if he's even able to suit up at all over the course of this season.
It's interesting just because, Ovi's a little dicey heading into the season for the Caps as well, but they have a lot of young guys coming up. It just what this team actually ends up looking like for the bulk of this season, it's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. That's for sure.
No question about that. All right, we have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll be joined by Erica L. Ayala with our bi-weekly women's hockey spotlight as we have new names and logos to talk about. Plus, we've got preseason hockey coming up this weekend, so hockey is back. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
Some of the best concerts of the year take place in the fall, and it's my favorite time of year to head to a show. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite part of the Game Time app is that it's great for getting notified about their super deals, so you know you're getting the best bang for your buck. Best of all, they have all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout when you activate that feature, and your tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through email. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Time now for our bi-weekly women's hockey spotlight, and that means we welcome back Erica L. Ayala. Erica, great to have you here again, and some exciting news coming out of the world of women's hockey right now.
Yes, indeed. Always a pleasure to be with you both, Gil and Rachel. And we've been talking about it forever, I feel like. And finally, we have PWHL team names. We also have logos. So no longer will the inaugural champion, Rachel, be known as PWHL Minnesota. Well, I guess the champions technically still are PWHL Minnesota, yes, but they will go into their campaign to defend with a new name. So let's go through. I'll read them in alphabetical order, and then we'll get into it here. But first, we have Boston. It's going to be the Boston Fleet. Then Minnesota is now the Minnesota Frost. And then we have Montreal Victoire. I'm not French. I do not speak French, so apologies in advance. We move on to the New York Sirens. Definitely going to circle and underline a conversation about that one. The Ottawa Charge and the Toronto Sceptres. So, Rachel, I'm going to come to you first, and we'll take a look at these logos real quick on the screen for those watching on YouTube. But initial thoughts about the logos, then the names.
Yeah, I think, they're not what was originally leaked out there, which I thought was interesting. I think it's hard to separate the names from the visual of them. Mm-hmm. I think all the names themselves, if you had no idea what the visuals were, are pretty good. Like, I think they're all real solid, and I think they kind of go with the league. They are interesting and different than I think any other hockey look before, and in women's sports, like, we haven't seen these names before in many places. So I really like that. It's just like when you get to the looks, there are definitely some that stand out a lot better than others. I would say personally, the Montreal Victoire looks the best. It is stunningly beautiful. And I love the graphic design of it all. I like the New York Sirens because that's now my hometown team, and so I have to like them, and I understand the reference. Well, I try, but I'd say I understood that reference, New York Sirens, because I live near an ambulance staging area. But I think it's then you kind of go from there, and it's kind of hit or miss a little bit.
Hit or miss. All right, Gil, you're up here. So, I don't know how much you knew about the logos coming from the CWHL, the NWHL, which then translated to the PHF, but just your thoughts here. PWHL has these names. Is there one that really caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I like the logos overall, but to me, the one that I like the best, and maybe this will surprise a few people, but I'm partial to the Boston Fleet.
Ooh.
It has, first of all, I'm partial to green, but second of all, yeah, it looks like an anchor or a sideways trident, and it makes it be like Boston.
Yes.
So, to me, it covers a lot of bases. I like the color. I like the logo. And, the name, it says something. So it says
the Fleet Center, the old name for TD Garden is what it says.
Well,
oh, there you go. See, I didn't have that.
I didn't connect that right away, but yeah.
There
okay.
You go. See, there you go. A little history. I like it. You know what's interesting about the Boston logo is that it reminds me of the fin that we would sometimes see, Rachel, with the Connecticut whale. I doubt that was intentional. Just if I had to put money on it, I'd say probably not intentional. But I think it's interesting, and it goes to what Gil was saying. The green, I think, really stands out with respect to kind of the color scheme here. But we kind of knew that I think the teams, for the most part, right, kept their colors that they had from when they were just going by their city name. So I think it's interesting. I would say I really liked the NWHL names. So I don't think that these compete. Now there's going to be a women's soccer team that is taking on.
Let's not talk about that. We don't want to talk about that.
All right, this is not a soccer podcast. We want to talk about it. But Pittsburgh Riveters, I mean, do I like it? I don't know. Am I excited? Maybe a little, but we're not going to talk about it. Okay, we'll move on. So yeah, Rachel, I totally get where you're coming from with regard to like being a New Yorker. I don't live in New York any longer, sadly, although I can't afford where I live now, so I love that. But I totally get the Sirens thing, and honestly, it's not something that I ever would have thought of for a team name. So in that way, I can lean into it. But also, like, I just feel like the mythical, like, female energy Sirens would have been super cool as well. So I think it's interesting. Definitely haven't heard anything, not literally, but haven't seen any team names like that before. So I kind of think that's cool. I agree about Montreal. I think they really nailed it. They nailed the brief. They understood the assignment. It seems quintessential Montreal to me. So I really like it. Toronto is interesting. I'm okay with the name. I'm not sure that the logo is really, really doing it for me. And now I'm
like
not
the blue and yellow. I'm not a blue yellow combo person.
Blue yellow combo. I could see that. It definitely goes. They're actually not playing at Toronto Metropolitan. I think that's the school name now. Used to be Ryerson. They're not playing there anymore, but that's actually kind of the color scheme of that school, which is interesting. But Gil, we have to do it because we left Ottawa kind of for last here. Oh, I guess we didn't talk about Minnesota. The F is giving me like what was that Batman movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it?
Oh my, Mr. Freeze.
Batman and Robin.
Yes. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like that's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze. Yeah, I just see Arnold Schwarzenegger with like the those intense, like contacts that he had and everything. That was the time. Was that the one, Gil, with Jim Carrey as well?
I am not sure, actually.
I don't know.
So.
That was quite the cast.
Yeah, quite the cast, but not a great movie, according to most people.
Well,
Can't have everything, right?
Can't have it all, right? But that's kind of what it's giving me. I'm okay with that. And then there is Gil. Oh man, it like Ottawa. This joke that I saw on the interwebs is just too good to pass up. Shout out to Julio, who said congratulations to the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Calgary Flames on their newest child. When I saw this, like I can't unsee it now. I mean, are they wrong, Rachel? Are they wrong?
No, it's like it's very upsetting how correct this opinion is.
I mean, it's kind of perfect from the shape to the colors just blending. It's like, oh, we know who your parents are.
And it is about 9 months after the league took off, isn't it? I mean,
there you go. The math works.
it adds up. Yes.
I don't know. Are they teasing? Is Cleveland getting a team at some point?
So they want their logo back.
Yeah, Cleveland and Calgary are the next two expansion teams. I just thought that was really funny. I don't know. It's really hard, Rachel, for me to separate now the Ottawa logo from that joke.
It's going to be tough. Maybe it'll look great on a jersey though, like when we see the whole uniform together. So yes. I'm going to try and be nice about it until then.
I mean, I just think it's a hilarious joke. I don't know if it was meant in a disparaging way. I just think it's absolutely hilarious. So, but yes. I agree with you. I think it goes with all of these, right? Once we see the whole getup, I think it will be interesting. And so we have some news. We talked on the last Spotlight about it was Toronto and Montreal, actually, who are relocating. Both will be playing in facilities that are shared with AHL teams. But New York is doing what all New York teams do, Rachel, and they're playing in New Jersey.
But keeping the New York name.
Because that's what we do in New York. Jokes aside, I mean, I definitely have thoughts about that. I share that in all sports arenas. But this is a move, Gil, that we've talked about before. It seemed inevitable that if there was going to be a team in the New York metropolitan area, that they were going to have to be in New Jersey, just for what this league is trying to be about. And quite honestly, getting fans to actually be able to attend the games.
You want to hold your games where it's most convenient for your fans to go. And they drew best in New Jersey. It makes sense to me. Little tougher for me to get to games now, but that should be my biggest problem.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very accessible by public transit. I've taken the path out there many, many times, and it is very easy to get there. So
yes, much easier.
I think it's the right call.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's the right call also, although it takes me an hour just to get to the path. But,
It's but great for you. But so they will maintain or will continue to play in an NHL arena. They played, of course, we know out at UBS Arena where the Islanders play. Gil, I know you're very familiar with that. But they will be playing at Prudential Center, The Rock. We have seen women's hockey there before. Now, the Riveters, they have played certain games there, and then they played most of their games for a time right next door at the practice facility of the New Jersey Devils at Barnabas Health Hockey House. But there's going to be a different practice facility. And I think a lot of this had to do with, although Barnabas made a lot of sense because of its proximity to Prudential Center, the demerit and why the Riveters, even at the time of the NWHL and PHF, moved and tried relocating for a time is because the locker rooms and the facilities for a team that wants to be there throughout the week, have games at and practices at a normal time, that just wasn't conducive to what Barnabas is doing. Not just because of the Devils, but also because of a lot of the youth programming and other leagues that they have there. So I think this is the right move. And we're seeing that the PWHL is really focused on increasing capacity for and accessibility. And I think we've seen that already pay dividends because we have the names, we have the logos, we have new locations, and Toronto is actually the first team, Rachel, in the PWHL to sell out season tickets. They're going the way of the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA and becoming the first team to sell out their season tickets for season 2.
Now we just have to get Asia Wilson to a Toronto Sceptres game.
I know, that's it. Maybe if they put a team in Miami, if the rumors are true, maybe she'll come with a guest. But anyway, that's for another podcast. We'll do a Locked On Women's Basketball for that one. But so we have names, we have logos, we're getting season ticket sellouts. All signs point to this being, good progress for a league that really made huge strides. There are still some things, though, that we want to see, and a good start would be the actual schedule. We don't know yet exactly when the games are going to tip off, but we do know where they'll be. We do see that the league is already putting out I think they're calling them mock jerseys, I think it's very, like jerseys, I guess, or something like that, where you can already get your swag. So next up, I guess, on the next spotlight, hopefully we'll be talking about the schedule, when the season is going to tip off, what the playoffs are going to look like, and things of that nature. But for now, it seems to be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, exciting times right now for the PWHL, and great to see that you're on top of it, as you always are, Erica. Thank you so much, and we'll check back with you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. Don't forget now, this offer expires on Sunday, and there's plenty of great things to bet on now on FanDuel. Check out the latest odds. Hey, NHL preseason getting underway this weekend. Check out the odds there on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com. Check it out today. We have hockey this weekend, Rachel. We actually have hockey.
I know. It's so exciting.
Can't wait. It's great to even say those words after it's not a long off season. It just feels like a long off season. And we get it all kicked off Saturday with 3 games Saturday night. Pittsburgh against Buffalo, St. Louis against Dallas, and Minnesota against Winnipeg.
Yeah, these first preseason games are always interesting because you usually see like mostly prospects or borderline players in them, right? Where you have like maybe a line and a half on the forward side of your regulars and 1 D pairing, right? So, it's not exactly, close to regular season hockey, but it is always good to see it getting going and get some of your favorite players back out there. And you really get to see the battles that for the roster spots. And I think, that's really the benefit and the draw of these early preseason games.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you get to see some of your team's younger prospects, guys who probably will not be on the NHL roster when the season starts, but in a couple of years, they could be some of your better players, some of your high draft picks. And then, the other thing is those guys who are on the roster bubble, they are going all out to try to make those rosters. So, some guys are just kind of getting back into the swing of things, and some guys, the intensity level is ratcheted up.
Yeah, and I think one of the more interesting aspects of these early preseason games is that some teams choose to do split squad games against the competition. So on Sunday, we've got Nashville and Florida doing that, where they have a 2 p.m. game and a 6 p.m. game back to back with the split squad. So they'll get to see pretty much everybody between those two games.
Yeah, and fans certainly enjoy having sort of a hockey doubleheader with their favorite teams, and like you said, you get to see all of the players there. And another thing on Sunday, Utah Hockey Club playing their first ever game as the Utah Hockey Club, but it's not in Salt Lake City.
No, they're having a preseason game in Des Moines, Iowa against the St. Louis Blues, but they will have their second game in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, so it's exciting. Do you like the split squad concept? Do you think it's a good thing, or do you think it's sort of pushing it a little bit?
I think it depends on what your strategy and what your needs are of the team, right? Where if you're a team that has a lot of roster flexibility or a lot of questions, you really want to see as many guys as you can. And I think also when you set up your training camp and you're trying to prep guys for a game, this way you're able to like put everybody on the same path, right? So you have the initial practices and skating sessions, and then everybody's got the morning skate, and it's a slightly different routine whether or not you've got the early game or the later game, but it really kind of sets the tone for how the camp is going to go and what your team looks like in terms of the schedule and how things work and the logistics. And so it kind of gets everybody back into that mode of morning skate, like, and their routine, whatever it is, to puck drop, right?
Yeah, and it does allow the fans to see, nearly every player who's healthy probably play in at least one of those two games. So there is that benefit as well. Certainly looking forward to an exciting weekend of hockey. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On NHL your first listen today. Now for your second listen, go check out Locked On NHL Prospects, where our experts are breaking down the best players outside the NHL, the future of the NHL every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Gil Martin. I will be back on Monday interviewing three of our local hosts with the biggest stories from around the league. She's Rachel Donner. You can see her all week on Locked On Flyers. Have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks for listening to and watching the Locked On NHL Podcast.